Hi everyone, in today's video we're going to talk about toning your canvas, how you do it, and why you want to do it. So first off, you're going to need to get a piece of cardboard. So you can use the cardboard from your kits, cut that up, save it, cut it into chunks like this, basically flat pieces that can fit one of your canvas pad sheets. So first thing that you need to do is to tape down your canvas. You want that to be flat on the cardboard. So to review that really quickly, I'm getting my tape and I'm making sure it's going to cover each of the sides fully. I'm going to start with the longest sides first. Let me rotate that. Okay, taking my tape and I'm overlapping the canvas pad. Now actually, even before this step, I've grabbed a piece of my canvas pad out and I want to make sure that it's gesso side up. So gesso is a white kind of acrylic paint that goes on top of canvas and makes it ready to paint on. If you're painting on unprimed or ungessoed canvas, it's going to be very dry and the oil is going to harm the canvas over time. So the gesso both gives you a surface to paint on top of and it protects the canvas from the acidic nature of the oil paint. Now, the way that you check is just make sure you look at the surface and you can see that white paint on there. My canvas pad is really obvious because the other side is linen and it's brown, not white. Yours might be a little bit whiter, but you can check. If you just look closely, you'll be able to see that white paint. You want to make sure that white paint is facing up so that you can actually paint on it. All right, so now that you've done that check, let's tape this down. So you're going to overlap the canvas pad just a little bit, okay? So say about that much. Okay, and then you begin, so first overlap your canvas pad. Don't immediately press it down. Start by first pressing the tape down onto the canvas itself. Okay, and then to press the tape down onto the cardboard, you're going to start from the kind of middle and press out. So that's keeping it flat. If you get bubbles in the canvas as you're taping it down, you just have to start over, because those bubbles are just going to become worse and worse as you apply paint to the surface. So we're trying to keep it down flat on the cardboard and tight on the cardboard, trying to avoid bubbles. All right, so I did this long side, now I'm going over to the other side. I'm going to do the same approach. And I'm making sure that the tape is covering the sides fully. So don't try to just tape little corners or patch together tape. You want instead to just completely cover that side. Don't skip out. All right. All right, my canvas pad is now fully taped down and it's ready to be toned. So we are going to be toning our canvases a mid-tone gray, and I actually have my leftover paint here from the Value Scales project. I'm just going to use what I've already mixed to tone a bunch of canvases. You can actually see some behind me on the easel that I've already toned. Now let's look at our value scales for just a moment and talk about why we're doing this. So we are going for that value 5, that mid-tone gray, the middle of our value scale. The reason we tone our canvas a mid-tone gray, and you could do other mid-tones too eventually, other colors, but we're starting with gray. So the reason we do that is that when you go to paint on that canvas, the darker end of the value scale is going to be visible on a mid-tone gray, and also importantly, the lighter end of the value scale is going to be visible on a mid-tone gray. Here's part of a time lapse for an upcoming project that will show why it's so important to tone our canvases a mid-tone gray. What we can see here is that both the dark values are showing up nicely and the light values are showing up. If the canvas was just white, those lights would not show. Okay, now that we know the importance of a mid-tone and how it lets that light end of the value scale show up as we're painting, let's get toning on this canvas. So you want to grab your large flat brush. This is going to be the easiest to use for our task. You need a paper towel. Mine already has a bunch of paint on it. I'm going to keep using this, but grab a fresh paper towel for yourself, okay? And then of course the paint that you've mixed for your value scale, or if you don't have this any longer, then just mix a mid-tone gray. So you're aiming for that number 5 on our value scale, okay? Now I'm gonna start to get this paint. I have a little medium on my palette as well, so I can add a little bit of medium to that paint. And I'm starting to put that onto the surface. And when you are toning a canvas, you want to keep this paint thin. You want to keep it thin because it's just one of those first layers. You're putting a tone down, and you want this to dry relatively quickly, right? So if we do this today, we put it on thin, then it should be ready by tomorrow. If, however, you put the paint on super thick, then it might not be dry for even a couple of months. So you want to get that on thin. So I'm kind of scrubbing the paint into the surface. And now what I'm also going to do, I'm going to grab my paper towel and I'm going to start to rub that paint into the surface. Now you don't want to add too much medium into this paint, because if you go to try to do this step, then it's just going to really rub the paint's just going to kind of rub off. So you're just adding a little bit of medium to your paint, scrubbing it into the surface, and also using your paper towel to get that in there too. Okay. All right, I need some more paint down so I can still get a nice tone. So let's keep adding more paint. You're going to repeat this process all over the surface. And there shouldn't be any big white spots. Let me mix a little bit more of my mid-tone. You want to be covering the white of that canvas, so then when you're adding white to this later, when you're painting in your light areas, that white is actually showing up. So try to eliminate all those little white spots. So there shouldn't be a halo around your canvas. Go right up to the edge. You can paint on top of that blue tape. Now again, that doesn't mean that you paint this on super thick. You still want a thin layer of the gray. You just want all that white to be covered. Toning, toning, toning. It can be a little time consuming, but take your time. Make sure to tone that entire canvas. Get rid of all the white spots. And yes, my cat is just adventuring in the background. I have no idea what she's doing. Okay, so now you can see that I have finished toning my canvas. The paint is thin. I've thinned it both in how I've scrubbed it onto the surface, and I've used that paper towel to rub it into the surface and smooth it out. There's no big white spots, and I've brought that paint up to the edges too, painted on top of the painter's tape a little bit so there's not a white halo. So I eliminated all of that white of the canvas. So now both the dark end of the value scale and the light end are going to show up when I paint. Now you want to tone a couple of canvases at least. All of our projects this semester are going to require that you tone your canvas first, both for the homework and also the major projects. So if you can get some ready now, so you just have a few ready to go, that's going to be great. Go ahead and use your leftover paint from the value scale project, and if you don't have any, just go ahead and remix a mid-tone gray. You're aiming for that value 5, so the middle of our value scale. Last thing, oil paint. It takes a while to dry. It's not like watercolor or acrylic, which can dry very quickly. So this can take up to a day or even more, but hopefully a day if you've kept it lighter paint application, thinner. So a day to dry. So you want to find a safe place to put these canvases to dry. All right, so up high on a bookshelf, somewhere where you're not going to be knocking into it, and you don't have pets or siblings or whatever, whoever, also accidentally touching it. And that's going to be especially important as you get into larger projects too, that you're not accidentally smearing your paint, okay? So think about that, think about some safe places to store your drying paintings. I recommend on top of the bookshelf. All right guys, message me with any questions and have a great day.